Welcome back to Are You Smarter Than a Libertarian? I'm your host, Jeff. Now, let's talk about one of the most popular political slogans floating around on X, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Housing is a human right. Now, at first, that sounds nice. It feels compassionate. It looks great on a protest sign or bumper sticker. But once you dig into it, the whole idea starts falling apart like government built apartment complexes with no maintenance budget, a la Cabrini Greens. First, let's clear something up. Not all rights are created equal. Human rights generally come in two flavors. Negative rights. Negative rights are things like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, or the right to keep your property. They protect you from interference. In other words, they say, don't mess with me. Now, the next flavor of rights is positive rights. Positive rights are demands. They require someone else to give you something. That might be food, housing, healthcare, or if politicians get really creative, maybe a guaranteed vacation package to Cancun with a free passport. Now, here's the issue. Housing does not just appear out of thin air. You can't wish for it and it magically appears. Someone has to design it, build it, maintain it, pay for it. If you declare housing is a right, what you are really declaring is that someone else is obligated to provide it for you. You are not just protecting freedom, you are forcing other people to work, spend, and sacrifice to meet that right. That is not liberty, that is turning your neighbor into a conscripted construction worker. It is Bob the Builder with a government issued draft notice. It doesn't work in other countries, it's not going to work here. From a libertarian perspective, that is the fatal flaw. Rights should not require you to grab somebody else's wallet, time, or labor, but leftists don't want to figure that part out. Real rights exist naturally. They do not depend on forcing other people to act. If your so-called rights require your neighbor to hand over money or swing a hammer against his will, then it is not a right. It is legalized servitude. Now think about the nature of housing itself. Life and liberty are universal conditions. You are born with them. You do not need anyone else to build them for you. Housing, on the other hand, is a social and economic construct. It is something societies developed over time. Our ancestors lived in caves, huts, or tents. Housing as we know it is a modern creation tied to economic progress. Declaring it a timeless human right makes as much sense as declaring air conditioning or Wi-Fi a human right. Britain doesn't believe in air conditioning. They're useful and most of us want them, but they are not natural or inherent. Even philosophers that we idolize and look up to recognize this. Thinkers like David Hume and Thomas Hobbes saw property rights, including housing, as products of society and law, not something we are born with. And Alexander Hamilton, for all his flaws, in Federalist 84, warned about overloading the concept of rights. He said that once you start piling on every good sounding idea and calling it a right, you cheapen the entire system. If everything is a right, then nothing is sacred. Before long, you are demanding the right to brunch or the right to a rent-controlled penthouse with a view of Central Park, a la Mondami in New York City. The philosophical part aside, here are the practical sides. Even if you could wave a magic wand and declare housing a human right, who pays for it? Government already spends trillions they don't have. To provide housing for every single citizen would require astronomical levels of taxation. We're not talking about a few extra bucks on your paycheck. We're talking about enough taxes to make even Scandinavian socialists go, whoa, 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 slow down there. This is getting a little crazy. And if you think that is bad, let's talk logistics. Who decides what type of housing you get? Is a tent good enough? A small apartment? Or does human right mean you get a house with a yard and a 2-car garage? And where do you get it? Do you get to demand a spot in Manhattan? Or are you going to be told to enjoy your new government-issued studio apartment in the middle of Nebraska? Somebody has to make those decisions, and that somebody is not you. That is your buddy government, which means you just created the housing DMV, and we all know how well that works. Congratulations, enjoy the line, the poor service, and the poor housing. And let's not forget the history of public housing experiments. Free or heavily subsidized housing often becomes neglected, crime-ridden, and poorly maintained, a la Cabrini Greens. When people do not have skin in the game, they tend not to value the property, a la Tragedy of the Commons. Add in the fact that bureaucracies cut corners and you get the infamous concrete towers that turned into crime scenes with plumbing, a la Cabrini Greens. That is not dignity, that is a disaster. Taxpayers see this and we get angry. And why, you might ask? Because we're working hard to pay off our mortgages, our rent, maintaining our homes, and suddenly we're forced to subsidize housing for others with no guarantee it will be respected or maintained. That does not build solidarity, it builds resentment. And resentment is the opposite of what you want in a healthy society, but leftists and Democrats don't truly want a healthy society. Declaring housing a right also creates perverse incentives. Why work to pay rent if the government guarantees you a place to live? Why maintain your property if someone else foots the bill? It encourages dependency instead of responsibility. It teaches people to think the state, to look to the state instead of looking to themselves or their communities, which the left is all about community togetherness. And the biggest irony of all this, declaring housing a right distracts from the real solution. The reason housing is so expensive is not because greedy landlords have a secret monopoly meeting every month. It is because government policies restrict supply, zoning laws, height restrictions, parking mandates, and endless red tape make it nearly impossible to build affordable housing in the places people actually want to live. The government cries about high rent. Wow, they are the ones strangling the supply. So here's the libertarian answer. Stop pretending that calling something a right magically makes it appear. Stop conscripting your neighbor into service. Instead, let the market work. Deregulate so builders can do what they do best, and that's build. Remove the barriers that prevent innovation and competition. That is how you make housing affordable and, most importantly, accessible. So the next time someone shouts, housing is a human right, you can calmly reply, no, housing is a need. Rights protect freedom, needs require effort. If you want affordable housing, stop the government from choking supply. Because at the end of the day, rights should keep you free, not force your neighbor to build you a man cave with taxpayer money. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Until tomorrow, stay free, stay informed, and stay accountable.